Everyone, happy Friday. Lots happening. Holy smokes. There's a ton of news internationally, nationally, provincially regarding critical metals. It's a hot topic, and we're going to wade through some of it, starting from just the acknowledgement of China's dominance in this field. A lot of people are talking about it being kind of like a Rockefeller moment with oil and gas, is that the monetization and logistics and supply chains of critical metals is really the path to the future. We've said that all along. We strongly agree that that is a huge tool in the tool belt for cleaner energy and whatnot. Of course, all energy is going to play a massive component, and we're just going to touch on a few different things on regarding this whole kind of focus on critical minerals, because it matters everywhere, and it certainly is a major point in regards to Canada. And if Canada has a chance to rebound and have an economic future, and I'll have some strong opinions on that, and we'll just go through what we know at this point and go from there. So let's take a peek right at Trump. So let's look at the states, and we can see that they're really focusing on revving up domestic production of whether it's uranium, copper, potash, gold, now even coal. Now that they've also acknowledged that federal agencies have stalled or really curtailed extractive resources in the last little while. And Washington is being told to get out of the way and let resource developers do what they do best, and that's build, mine, and produce. This new effort will be spearheaded by Secretary Doug Burgum, who's the Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. And it's going to be called the National Energy Dominance Council. Yes, that's the name. And I think that pretty much says it all. Some people might cringe at the name, but listen, if you want to be clear and understand exactly how critical this is, setting up an energy dominance council tells everyone the direction we're going. And he'll have authority to prioritize resource development on federal lands, ensuring critical mineral production takes precedence over bureaucratic gridlock or fringe opposition. This is what we want to see. This would be outstanding, not only for the U.S., but if we could implement something like that in Canada. And like Biden, Trump is tapping on that Defense Production Act, which Biden used in 2022 to really help to unleash domestic mineral output. As far as they're concerned, and I would agree, it's a national security imperative. And that's great, because it's what we've been saying, is that it isn't just that the drill baby drill for oil and gas, it's drill baby drill for all the critical metals. So finally, we have someone that is, at least at this point, setting up a body that is going to really drive that innovation forward and to look to see about getting the stuff out of the ground, essentially. Now, that they're not including Canada necessarily right now, but they're acknowledging that 91% of all American potash is imported. 99% of all uranium used in U.S. nuclear power plants comes from foreign sources, a lot of that Canadian. Nearly half the copper, which is basically the fundamental building block of infrastructure and electrification, is also brought from abroad. As far as they're concerned, that's not sustainable. It's certainly not secure, and it is not smart. So this is more than a policy. This is a big signal on a big way. Not just to say we've got a defense act, but they're saying that critical minerals are the new oil, and that we're going to need some investment now, and to encourage investment now. And that is pretty great. So, I mean, the big question is, who's ready to step up and lead this new era of resource independence in the States? A lot of Canadian companies with assets down the States will be looking to see, how real is this? I mean, once again, politicians say things, government bodies do things. It'll be what actually occurs. If they're able to bring projects forward very quickly, that is a huge win for anybody in the commodity source, for anybody who's an environmentalist, anybody who wants the clean revolution to be seen. This has to happen. Of course, that won't be the case. We're going to hear lots of pushback on this. And we always reiterate, doesn't mean that there's no regulations. You have to have strong regulations to make sure that there's protections. But the issue regarding, say, mining has never been that there hasn't been strong regulations. Most projects go through onerous, years-long EPA studies, environmental studies. They pass all of them and can still be held up. So that kind of let us shift a little bit to look at, say, Canada, because right now, the biggest thing holding back development of any commodity in Canada is the federal government. It has been for the past 8 years, even though that the current regime, which is the last one for the past 9 years, they can talk about wanting critical metals. One of the easiest things to look at as the person in charge, the federal minister for environment and climate change, is Stephen Guilbeault, who, as we know, this is not someone who wants to see anything come out of the ground. The reality versus the rhetoric on critical metals, even if you just went and just said, hey, OpenAI, ChatGPT, tell me what his thoughts are regarding Canadian critical metals or critical minerals or responsible extraction. It'll tell you he claims to support the idea, but that he will stand the actual actions as being to stand in the way of that progress. Multiple energy projects and mining projects have faced lengthy delays or outright cancellation under federal environmental review, whether it's the Impact Assessment Act, formerly Bill C-69, widely criticized as being overly vague and obstructive. Also the Supreme Court of Canada ruled that in October 2023, parts of that were unconstitutional. There's lots of things that they can cite, whether it's Teck Resources' proposed Frontier Oil Sands project, Braden Nord offshore oil project, delays due to environmental escalation. That's his big game. Even if we acknowledge the Fraser Institute says regulatory uncertainty and duplication between federal and provincial processes remain major deterrents to investment in Canadian jurisdictions. People are very well aware of how rich Canada is as a commodity culture, similar to Australia, but Australia is able to get business done a lot faster than Canada. Unfortunately, we're seeing that the GDP per capita in Canada has been dismal, has been rocketing downward, and we need to have a big change of pace, I guess, to say. So the reason why I bring that up is that's stating what's happened up until now, despite this a fund. They've launched a $3.8 billion critical mineral strategy. Very few critical mineral extraction projects have actually broken ground under his leadership. So not much of the money has gone to early stage, actual production or anything like that. Most of the money has gone on studies, on research, battery processing, but not to actual extraction or mining or development. So it's like we kind of suspected. Most of the money is government-run studies. Hey, let's assess this, let's assess that. It's a lot of stall tactics. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to jump into a bit of a clip here. And I bring this up because it's a Pierre Poilievre talking about his vision of what he sees compared to what we've seen today. And I bring up what we've seen today because Carney will be exactly the same, if not more constrictive. Whether or not he keeps Guilbeault on or not, he may. But there won't be any, I would say there has been no indication of any change. There's been no business plan put forward to extract under the Liberals so far or from him, even though they've called an election. So I would assume if he gets power, it's going to be more of what we've just been seeing for 8 or 9 years. And some of you may think that's great. Oh, great, we won't be extracting anything. And you'll think that you're being environmentally sound and very virtuous. But that just means you don't understand the argument. You don't understand that we don't get any of this transition unless we get these critical minerals out. So let's take a look at this Pierre Poilievre snippet he put out I think it was yesterday.
A Canadian company discovered a gold mine. Yes, a literal gold mine. Almost 500 kilometers north of Thunder Bay, this company's scientists discovered one of the largest untapped areas for rare earth metals in the world. Buried under their feet, was tens of billions of dollars of critical minerals like chromite, cobalt, nickel, copper, platinum, and gold, resources the entire world is desperate for. It's called the Ring of Fire, and it could make Canada very rich. It would be life-changing for Northern Ontario towns, galvanized by thousands of paychecks and modern infrastructure. It would also help our First Nations become richer. It would boost our economy with billions of dollars, allowing us to become less dependent on the Americans after we start selling these resources to our friends and allies overseas. And it would turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people, no longer having to rely on Beijing for the metals that create our batteries, turbines, solar panels, and satellites. But you might be asking yourself a question at this point. We've known about the Ring of Fire for years. So why hasn't a single mine opened? Why hasn't a single road been built or a single worker handed a paycheck? The answer? The Liberals did everything in their power to keep these minerals in the ground. They've been sitting on Ring of Fire permits for 5 whole years. The process was started by former Liberal Environment Minister Wilkinson in February of 2020. After he did nothing for 3 years, Trudeau decided he needed a new minister. The man for the job, radical environmentalist Stephen Guilbeault, who made it even harder for us to get these resources out of the ground, and he's still in Mark Carney's cabinet.
Okay, we'll pause here.
And
let's pause here. I mean, it goes on. There's lots of politics here, and some people will be offended and might feel annoyed. But if you skim across and you go on more, the message from Pierre Poilievre is that yes, we're going to stop this obstruction of extraction of resources, because once again, you don't have to take my word for it. Just ask ChatGPT. The rhetoric versus the actual actions taken in the last 9 years are complete opposite. And I mean, it's clear to see in our economy. It's falling apart, crumbling. And once again, if you're voting for more of that, you're going to get more of that. And I'm not saying that Pierre Poilievre is this, that, and everything are all great or all wonderful. I'm just saying in this specific case, at least he's saying all the right things. And once again, I always say put that caveat of it. They're politicians and they say things. We're not getting any indication that there's a plan in place at all coming from the other side of the table. And that's pretty challenging for not only the industry, for the sector, but for Canada. You don't have to have a future ball to know what's going to happen if we don't take advantage of the natural resources we have and the fact that we have strong regulatory oversight and we do things correctly here. I reiterate to people, we should want to do it rather than just close your eyes and say, let's do it in some foreign country where we don't really have oversight and no one's really paying attention. It's very frustrating when you're in this very small, nuanced world dealing with the most important issue as far as progressives are concerned of the environment and climate change, but they're not able to reconcile the two. So you can imagine it's kind of like a gaslighting experiment. Whenever you ask someone how they think they're going to get this transition done without any critical metals or without mining or without extraction. It's frustrating. And now I think more and more people are becoming more aware, but you have to fight through the constant propaganda and misinformation from those who do not want projects moving forward, who do not want to see Canada be wealthy or to extract things out of the ground. And I would say that it's about time that people should get a bit more excited about what could be. And certainly young people, because listen, it's your future. We know what's going to happen if we go through another 4 years of what we've had. It doesn't take a crystal ball. It's going to continue the way it's going. So, I think it's important for people to really, really get familiar with a lot of these ideas and facts. And on that regard, we've talked, a little bit about BC, and they've been doing kind of more of the same that the Liberal government and or leftist governments have been doing. Is the Association of Mineral Exploration has come out with strong concerns over this new mineral claims consultation framework that was just put out. And it becomes even more onerous from basically, it took the government 18 months to not really put a good timetable or time frame together. They've seen that there's a lot of issues regarding confidentiality. There's a lot more obstruction up front in regards to this framework. And also, there's no target timelines and no guaranteed processing deadlines. So there's a framework, but there's no actual processing deadline. So it's been more vague and hasn't defined some clarity, but not a ton. And this is the problems that you deal with, is that how much of this policy going forward is this vague language to say, we're going to work on this, and then you're going to consult this, and we're going to force you to engage in the following 7 committees, which will hire on. I mean, this is just, typical bureaucratic red tape to stall and to stop anything actually getting done. Once again, I reiterate, we need to have regulatory frameworks. We need to have environmental frameworks that have to be passed, but these are not difficult things to pass. I shouldn't say they aren't difficult to pass. Once they're passed, they're done. End of story. A lot of times companies have to go through them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And as governments change and as people change in those positions, it means they have to do it all over again. So my big complaint is obvious. And it's different than what sometimes people say about, it's not necessarily the government framework that's holding things back. I would say if you're actually interested in production of mining and actually building more mines, they are the number one blocking point. And if we want to be a player in the green revolution, and we want to actually develop mines in a sensible and needy way, we need to have people in place that are going to actively do that. Now, controversially, we see Danielle Smith. She has done, I think, an excellent job in proposing a blueprint to stop federal interference regarding accessing critical metals and energy. And she's put out or has proposed an Alberta's Defense of Infrastructure Act. And if passed, this is Bill 45, this would help to protect essential infrastructure. It would also move the definition of critical border zone to include essential infrastructure all in one place. They really wanted to nail down on what the federal government could do. And she cited back in 2022, there was federal workers trespassed on private farmland to collect water samples from. And as she said to reporters, the Saskatchewan government did something quite similar in saying federal agents are not going to be allowed to just show up on private people's land. So they're looking to make sure that the federal government can't stop, delay projects moving forward, and assert more provincial control over access to developing resources, similar to the way U.S. is saying. They're saying, listen, if you guys really are concerned about climate change, then we want to help you be that solution. Let's get these critical metals, copper, you name it, out of the ground in a meaningful and reasonable way. This is very interesting. I mean, we've seen that one of the biggest things, once again, if you ask ChatGPT or you just go into any AI chatbot and ask them, they'll say one of the biggest holdbacks in the mining sector is permitting and regulations. Now, you might hear differently from an opinion piece or the mainstream media. And we've talked about a study done, a federal government paid study that tried to say that permitting wasn't the issue, but it is. In every case that you look at, it has become, as someone who works very intently, it is a long and lengthy process in order to do. And we need to change that. We need to streamline that. I'm kind of preaching to a lot of the choir here that are in this space. The hope is that if people share this to environmentalists, to those that say that, we don't want mining, is that I want to know why they don't, because we need to have these metals in order to make the solar panels, to make the nuclear reactors, and to feed the nuclear reactors. That is a discussion that needs to happen rapidly. And we're going to have, I think this critical metals is going to be at the forefront of this next election, not only the economy, and I certainly hope that these are key on people's minds and not mean Trump or, silly distractions like that. I'm hoping people really look at economically where they want to be and what they want to leave for their children, and if they want Canada to be wealthy or not. and if they want them to play a key role in developing resources. Now, he had mentioned gold in particular there in the Ring of Fire, along with other ones. And I just thought I'd wrap this up, this quick little rant with, we saw something come out of Morningstar where they were talking about in 4 or 5 years, gold being back down below 1900. Now that might send some shockwaves or some alarm to people saying, oh my goodness, it's not going to just continue to go straight up for the next 4 or 5 years. And to me, I look at that and go, well, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully if we do things correctly in 4 or 5 years and get some of this debt under management, pay off some debt, if we have the breakthroughs that they hope with AI and the breakthroughs with mining and actually getting critical metals out and be able to manufacture things in the West, in North America, to actually encourage small and middle businesses to grow and manufacturing to grow again in the West, you're going to see a very different situation than we have today, where you basically have a globalist kind of system in which the very, 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 very top are reaping all of the wealth because it's at scale. And I know that if you're a pure capitalist, you say, oh, that's the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, there's lots of arguments to be said for that. I prefer, though, the idea of you try to make a country really wealthy and you try to make the middle class wealthy. And that means letting people know that, no, there's going to be lots of manufacturing. There's going to be a need for people to start building things in North America, mining them, processing them. And, that's what my hope is for people, because that's, I'm not saying that, say a manufacturing job is the be all end all of the world, but certainly people who aren't working, who think that they could get a very high, well-paying job manufacturing, they would be pretty happy then, rather than saying, let's ship it off somewhere else where we get to use slave labor or next to near slave labor in order so we get things a little bit cheaper. So that's my take on things. Lots to kind of ramble on. That's a lot of information there, but the critical metals is going to be at the forefront. We're going to see how it plays out in the States. I mean, there'll be all sorts of, you're going to see how this process works, because every NGO, every environmentalist, every left-leaning funded institution is going to come after to try to stop any mining, to stop any extraction. But if there's a federal mandate in the States, maybe that has more weight. And we can actually start to see a concrete plan in order to get the resources that are required for the left's climate change agenda. It's for their own good, because they don't have a plan otherwise. They haven't proposed anything other than let's just let China do everything and then hopefully we'll be okay. And that isn't smart. And so I know that it's very controversial, anything coming from the South right now. And fair enough. That's okay. We try to avoid, once again, all the political stuff, as far as the silly nonsense political stuff that I would consider. But when you're looking at actual sector related extraction and what will actually move the needle, seeing something from the States like that, like this, is very positive. And we need to see that up here as well. So everyone, hey, tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm way off base, whether this is going to harm, hurt, encourage, no matter what. It's good that we're seeing constant levels of headline news, whether it's at CNN, whether it's at Bloomberg. We're seeing these high-level news stories coming out and videos talking about critical metals, acknowledging that we need to have a supply of them, and not only just to mine them, but to actually produce, whether it's a phosphoric acid, in order to actually produce them, to be able to use them for an end use. And all of these supply chains and all of these companies and all of these lines of trade are all changing right now. And Canada has to look at all its options, which we always encourage as well. They don't have to just deal with the States. If you don't want to, I don't mind, but we have to have a plan in place in order to actually trade. Because if you don't allow us to build businesses or to extract the resources, you're not trading it with anyone then. So let's make sure that we have that focus. Once again, this article is from New Brunswick. The province hopes to grow its economy by mining critical metals. It's not just Alberta. BC acknowledges it, but we'll see if they actually mean it. but you see at least politicians talking about it. And we have to keep our foot on that pedal to make sure that they're actually doing something. And it isn't just a vague bill saying, here's all the onerous things you have to do up front, and then there's no time frame for us to make a decision, because that's kind of how it's always been. And we need to make sure we get this stuff out of the ground so we can help the entire world. Anyways, everyone, have a great weekend. Tell me your thoughts. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. I don't mind. But if you could share this with others, especially those who might think I'm far off, that's the people we want to reach. Those are the people we want to talk to, because when I read comments online, whether it's a YouTube or whether it's some article, it's shocking the beliefs that people have out there. And then I have to pull myself back and remind myself that pretty much from grade school to high school to university, it's a constant stream of extraction bad. It's all bad. It's all terrible. That's all the people are used to. And if you're looking at just CBC or state-funded media, it's going to be the same message. And it's the furthest thing from reality or the truth. And that's an uphill battle. So we've got a huge uphill battle to fight. And that means lots of engagement, lots of sharing with ideas, and also, challenging ourselves and others to say, well, why do you believe that? Or who told you that? Anyways, enough of that. That's my rant for today. Tell me your thoughts and have a great weekend. And we'll chat with you real soon.